Well, James Fallows is Chair of Media Studies at the US Studies Centre at the University of Sydney. He's also a national correspondent for The Atlantic magazine, and he's here with me now. Welcome back to Australia.
Thank
Good
you
to
so
see
much.
you.
Nice to be here.
Let's start off with Mitt Romney. What are his chances of being nominated? Because he actually didn't get through last time, did he?
There's a long tradition in the Republican Party of somebody winning on his second try, and so since Mitt Romney was a familiar loser from the previous time, he sort of is the first in the pack for the Republicans now. He's leading in the polls, but it still is a year's time before a nominee is actually chosen.
Okay, but it always seems that Sarah Palin overshadows whatever anyone else in the Republican Party tries to do. Do you think it's inevitable she's going to announce her candidacy?
I would bet against her announcing. I think the way to view her prominence in the public eye is similar to Oprah's or to Donald Trump's, and that she is a very magnetic media figure for better and worse. Her actual approval ratings, only about 10% of Americans say they are very much in favor of her, and about 40% say they are very much not in favor of her, and nobody has ever gone far in politics with that kind of inverse rating. So I think she will toy around the edges. She might even run, but I think she will not be the nominee. I make that prediction here.
Okay, well, we'll hold you to that one,
That's
because
fine.
of course she launched that big bus tour last week, and she obviously enjoys getting in the headlines with sort of big spreads, doesn't she?
She has a kind of genius for this publicity, and I'm sure Mitt Romney is pulling out his hair right now, his very nicely coiffed hair, the fact that she was able to step on his announcement by her bus tour. And I think the senior Republican strategists, people like Karl Rove, are also thinking, why can we not get Sarah Palin sort of off stage and have our more plausible candidates getting more of the airtime?
Okay, I guess we're seeing some pictures of Mitt Romney now. I guess we're not going to see the same kind of behaviour that seems to have dogged John Edwards of late.
Mitt Romney, there are many things people complain about him, but not that John Edwards type situation. There has been a real rash of sexual misbehavior episodes involving male politicians in the U.S., and John Edwards is the one that is now crossing the criminal accusations line with this allegation that he used campaign funds to pay off his mistress.
Okay, let's move on.
Let's indeed.
We've been talking about the internet a lot in Australia, given hacking into Sony. China's military has now accused the US of launching a global internet war to bring down Arab and other governments. Now, of course, the US has accused China recently of launching hacking attacks into, for example, Google. Is this just a sort of tit-for-tat thing?
I think there is the tit-for-tat aspect, and probably both sides are correct in their accusations, by which I mean for a long time China has been, both in its military and its disorganized ways, a source of internet hacking activity around the world, and this is not a secret even from the Chinese. It also is true that the United States government does have a very substantial sort of cyber offensive capability itself. And a lot of the reports about the Arab Spring, for example, the company Twitter was involved. It avoided a planned shutdown that was, I think, during the Egyptian uprising, so that the service would be available to people in Egypt. So I think this is something where the reply in the last 24 hours from the Chinese government had a kind of ritualistic note to it, but there is something real they're talking about. All countries do this. Where
do you see this whole kind of internet, email attacking, hacking war particularly between China and the US? Where is it heading to? This
is something I'm actually planning to write about for my magazine. I think we're passing through a sort of end of innocence or discovery of tragedy in the realm of the cloud and of online activities, because I think more and more people are seeing the basic vulnerability of things they do online. When we were living in China recently, my wife's Gmail account was taken over for a while, and so
I think I got an email from her.
Yes. Did you wire money to Spain?
I didn't. I mean, a lot of people say that these attacks, particularly like on Sony, are cyber terrorism. I mean, is that how we should view hacking attacks?
I think that if we think of terrorism as being centrally directed by Al-Qaeda or whatever, it's not like that. It is a sort of cyber crime and a cyber mayhem, akin to sort of urban disorder, which makes people afraid to go outside.
Okay, and finally, you're here for a conference on 9/11, a decade on. What are your reflections? Where do you think we've come? And I guess it's particularly significant given the US action on killing Osama bin Laden a few weeks ago.
Yes, there is going to be this summit at the US Studies Center to assess all the various aspects of the decade. I think from the US point of view, the killing of bin Laden actually is significant, because it's the only way in which this episode could come to some kind of conclusion. There's never going to be an end to terrorism. There's never going to be a real pacification of Afghanistan. So this is something that might allow President Obama to say, okay, we have completed this part of the saga, and let's see what we do now in the future.
James Fallows, always a pleasure to talk with you. Thank you so much for coming in.
My pleasure. Thank you.